Hello everybody, my name is Average Election Enjoyer. Today on May 19th of 2026, and there is breaking news in the Texas Senate primary, Republican primary specifically, where we see that Donald Trump has endorsed Ken Paxton over incumbent Senator John Cornyn here. This is definitely a surprising outcome after Trump said that he was going to endorse a candidate months ago when the first round occurred, and then he ended up not making endorsement just to do a surprise endorsement at 12 p.m. Eastern time today. This is a move that is been widely is concerned many Republicans in the Senate for a while, as Paxton is considered a fairly weak candidate. He's a Mark Robinson light in terms of scandals that he has. He had a very controversial divorce. He got acquitted by the Texas Senate and was in fact voted for to be moved forward by the Texas House. So the Texas House actually convicted him of crimes that, I'll look it up right now. So you can see he had some security fraud charges, and there was a federal investigation, potential bribery, and witness retaliation, which almost led up into an impeachment. However, it passed the House, but he was acquitted by the Texas State Senate on all 16 charges of impeachment. This occurred back in 2023 there. So this is definitely a huge announcement, and it is yet another mistake by the Republican Party in terms of the midterms here. We saw in 2022 that they, in fact, poorly performed in the Senate races because of poor candidate choice, and they are once again committing that fatal crime here. We've seen a lot of recent MAGA candidates with lots and lots of waste that they're bringing in. These people have so much baggage, and yet they continually are getting endorsements from Trump, and that is going to likely be to their detriment here in the upcoming 2026 midterm here. If we look at you see here are some of the primaries where Cornyn and Paxton were trading back and forth. Paxton was leading altogether, and now Paxton is all but locked up the primary with Trump's endorsement. And we can see what kind of effect that is going to have. We can see that Paxton is underperforming Cornyn in pretty much all of these polls here. We go up to all these recent ones. We have Tallarico up 5 points versus 3 points on Cornyn in this poll. We have Tallarico up 1 more point than Cornyn in this poll. And again, he's underperforming here. Paxton is even with Tallarico, while Cornyn is up 1. So we see that Cornyn is consistently overperforming Paxton, and yet Paxton is going to likely get the nomination here. This is likely going to cause a problem with independents in Texas. Who might see James Tallarico as a Boy Scout, as someone who's not carrying a lot of baggage. He's only been in the state house. He hasn't. He doesn't have that more, mainstream Democratic air to him. He's not a part of he wasn't on the Hill. He doesn't have that connection. Versus you have Ken Paxton, who has all these charges against him. He had a controversial split with his wife. He's a wide supporter of Christian nationalism, which is probably going to be hurting with anyone who's not particularly religious, and that has been a voting bloc that has been increasing in the United States. A lot of Cornyn voters said that they won't vote for Paxton. There was a poll that had 25% of Cornyn voters saying they won't vote for Paxton. Of course, I don't think that's going to happen. Majority are going to come home for Ken Paxton ultimately, but there definitely might be Republicans who might be dismayed by what they're seeing with their candidate, and they might either vote for another party, or they might not vote at all, or they might even vote for James Tallarico. He's been really attempting to, in his ads, show a lot of bipartisan support, far more than you're seeing from Cornyn or Paxton in their ads, who are really promoting a MAGA image. They're not really trying to lean into any sort of bipartisanship. So if Tallarico is going to be able to gather any sort of Republican voters and win independent voters, then this is going to be a very scary race for Republicans come November. As you can see, this is the map right now with all sort of what are deemed as safe states on either side. They're not safe in terms of safe likely lean. I mean safe in terms of where they are very much so likely going to be at this current moment. And with Ken Paxton, you can only say Texas is a lean at most for the Republican Party because he is such a poor candidate here. There is even a world where Democrats could beat Ken Paxton because of all his scandals. Who knows what other skeletons he has hiding in the closet? He could get convicted for another crime. Like he is very much so not the candidate you want to be running in an election like this. And this is a problem that has plagued the GOP ever since Trump has took over. Is that MAGA candidates who match Trump in the sort of opinions he has, but don't have the following that he does, that don't have the loyal supporters that he does. Trump-like candidates, I could say, tend to struggle in these statewide elections, in these Senate elections, in these House of Representative elections, and Ken Paxton is one of the most extreme examples of that. And I'll show you why that is a detriment right here. If Democrats want to take the Senate, they are going to need 51 total senators here. And if Republicans could have just kept Cornyn in, this would have been a likely Republican state, and this would have prevented the Democrats. Because if Democrats won every other seat, of course they would take it, but Republicans are likely to win in Iowa. They're likely to win in Ohio, and they definitely have the advantage in Alaska here. The states that Democrats have the advantage in is Maine and Michigan and North Carolina and Georgia here. I would say Michigan is more up in the air, but I believe that if the Democratic candidates don't carry the baggage that we see in Ken Paxton, and you will see a lot of Democratic voters coming home for the Democratic Party in Michigan. So I think it's sort of the opposite effect that Texas is going to see. However, Alaska is starting to become more up in the air with Mary Peltola. This is a race that Republicans should win, but might not because of how popular Mary Peltola is. And so this race is currently a toss-up. And if Republicans somehow manage to lose Texas, that could be the majority right there. Because if Democrats win the states that they are expected to win, plus Alaska, plus Texas, that's 51. Alaska is the most likely of Iowa and of the pickups that are a little more out there, but are within the realm of possibility with Iowa and Ohio. Alaska is the most likely to flip, and some are actually saying that Peltola is the favorite coming into this 2026 midterms here. And if the Republicans manage to lose Texas, that is basically the only way that Democrats are going to gain a majority, likely, unless Sherrod Brown pulls off a miracle in Ohio. So this could definitely have a huge impact on the future of the Trump administration. A blue Senate would cause so many problems for the Trump administration in terms of them trying to carry out their policy. And yet they are shooting themselves in the foot at every turn by choosing the worst possible candidate. And Democrats have gotten the best possible candidates in a lot of their elections. They got Roy Cooper, John Ossoff. They have Sherrod Brown rerunning in Ohio. Graham Plattner is looking fairly strong in Maine. He got all his controversies out of the way. Michigan is the one case where Democrats are, in fact, in a very contested primary. But none of the candidates have a ridiculous amount of baggage the way that you see with a lot of these Republican candidates having. You have Mike Liddell running for Minnesota governor. That basically put the entire state out of the question because of down ballot effects. That's going to just be a disaster there. You have Michael Whatley, who's seen pretty weak candidate in North Carolina. You see a lot of really poor Republican candidates facing up against really good Democratic candidates, and that is, I think, going to be the story of the 2026 Senate elections. Of course, the example from Minnesota was a gubernatorial election, but it's just a case in point where you see a lot of poor MAGA-leaning candidates who are just they don't have the effect on voters that Trump has. They in fact have a negative effect where you see independent voters really turned off by what they see in these MAGA candidates. Yeah, that is a huge endorsement, and huge not in a way of it's going to be benefiting the Republicans. In fact, it is going to be only benefiting the Democrats. Another poor choice by Trump and the Republican Party in terms of endorsements and who they want to be representing them on the state level. So I'd like to thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.